Hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining tonight's webinar, Navigating the New CPF Landscape, Closure of Special Account After 55. My name is Gerald, and I'm very pleased to be your moderator for today. So, as a background, many of us are aware that the CPF board has closed the special account of approximately 1.4 million members in this age group in January this year. So, if you are age 55 and above and are lucky enough to have a large CPF balance in excess of your full retirement sum, that means that you have to make an important financial decision around what you intend to do with this sum of money. So since the announcement, we've been receiving a lot of questions. What is CPF Life? How do I decide between basic retirement sum, enhanced retirement sum, full retirement sum? How do we earn a higher return on our CPF balances? So that is really what we want to be discussing tonight. And to be able to have a fruitful discussion, we are very pleased to have with us two experts in this area. I've been speaking to them in preparation for tonight's webinar, and I know that both of them are very passionate about understanding the CPF system and helping consumers in Singapore better prepare for their retirements. So first and foremost, we've got Miss Lina Ting, who is the Learning and Development Specialist at Provident. We also have Mr. Cham Shing Shi, Business Development and Partnership Lead at Endowers. So what we'll do is we'll get each of them to start with some sharing. Thereafter, we'll go into the Q&A session where we would warmly welcome your questions for both of our speakers here tonight. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Lina, who will give us an overview around some of these changes in our CPF system.
All right. Hi, good evening, everyone, and thank you for the brief introduction, Gerald. Thank you for taking time out today, this evening, to join us for this talk. First of all, I'd like to thank SIAS for inviting me to give this talk on CPF, and I'm sure some of you may be feeling uncertain with the recent closure of the special account and what you can do with these monies and whether it would actually affect you, if at all. So CPF is a topic that's very close to my heart, having worked in the board for more than almost 10 years, fronting talks as well as grassroots engagements, especially during a very difficult period back in 2014. But it was also this period of time that I got to learn a lot about the system, the inner workings and the policy design, as well as the importance of communicating this rather complicated scheme to most people. So even after being out of the CPF for almost 5 years now, I'm still very appreciative of the CPF. And I hope that through my presentation today, I will help you to understand how CPF can help you form the foundation of your retirement plan. Now, before I begin, here's some disclaimer. Please note that everything I say here is for information and illustration purposes only and should not be construed as recommendation or advice. Please seek specific financial advice from your advisor where applicable. So in the next 30 minutes or so, I will be covering these following topics, specifically what happens to your CPF when you turn 55 years old, how CPF Life works, and address some common misperceptions that people have about the scheme. This will also help us to better frame the conversations that we will have later during the panelists on what we can do now that the special account is closed. So in a nutshell, the CPF system is designed to prepare Singaporeans for retirement from the day they start working. You contribute and accumulate your CPF contributions as you work, and contributions come from both yourself and for your employer. For members who are less than 55 years old, the contributions that you make from yourself is about 20%, and for employer, that would be about 17%. The government also helps too by providing risk-free interest on your CPF savings. So over time, with the power of compound interest, your CPF savings will grow to help you attain a certain amount of nest egg when you turn 55. But the story doesn't end here, because as important as it is to help us build sufficient savings for our retirement, it is even more important to actually have a spending plan which addresses key risks that retirees face. We actually need a plan that provides us with a consistent stream of monthly income, provides us with risk-free returns, especially during retirement, to keep pace with inflation, and also protects us from outliving our savings especially in a society like Singapore, where 1 in 2 Singaporeans are expected to live beyond 85 years old. So that's where CPF Life comes into the picture. When you turn 55 years old, the money, or when you turn 65 years old to be exact, the money that you have accumulated in your retirement account will be used to buy CPF Life to help you receive lifelong monthly payouts for as long as you live. So that's what CPF does in a nutshell. So let me just now explain how this thing works in the face of the closure of special account. When you turn 55 years old, a retirement account will actually be created for you. And CPF board will reserve about 5,000 for unconditional withdrawal. Then they will transfer your savings from your special account to your retirement account. In this illustration, let's assume you have maybe some member has about 300,000 in their special account and 200,000 in their ordinary account. So for a member turning 55 this year, your full retirement sum is about 213,000. So what CPF board will do first, when you turn 55 years old, is to transfer up to the full retirement sum to your retirement account. If your special account has insufficient balances, it will then be taken from your ordinary account. Any savings above the full retirement sum can then be withdrawn in full or anytime you want to via PayNow. So with the closure of the special account, a few things have now changed. Firstly, your retirement account now becomes your new special account. If you're still working and contributing to your CPF after 55 years old, the contributions that previously would go to your special account will now go to your retirement account instead, if you have yet to set aside the full retirement sum. Otherwise, these contributions will go to your ordinary account. Now, the second change, and possibly the more concerning one for some of you, is that any balances that is left in the special account after the creation of the ordinary account will now be transferred to your OA. What this means is that for some of us who are really hoping to be able to enjoy a 4% risk-free account with the ability and flexibility to withdraw anytime, will now earn a risk-free rate of 2.5% instead. So, however, why would the government make such a change, right? But knowing them, and since I've been working with them before, they only do so if there are already viable alternatives around. And what such alternative is to reconsider the role that CPF Life plays in your retirement plans. Now, between 55 to the payout start age, the savings in your retirement account will continue to earn risk-free interest of up to 6% per annum. So if you do not do anything, this monies will estimate to grow about 1.5 times over the next 10 years. So when you finally decide to start your payouts anytime between 65 to 70 years old, depending on the balances that you have in your retirement account at that point of time, it will be used to help you compute what your monthly CPF Life payouts will be like. During this period of time, you also have the option to top up to your retirement account anytime using either cash or transfers from your ordinary account up to the prevailing enhanced retirement sum. And this will help you to also increase your CPF Life monthly payout. So naturally, the next question that some of you will have is that how much RA savings do I then need to set aside at 55 years old in order to get what kind of payouts? So based on so this is a table that I pulled up from the CPF website. It's based on the CPF Life standard plan and for a member who is turning 55 this year. All right. So assuming that you are somebody who is turning 5 this year and you decide to set aside the basic retirement sum, the BRS, of $106,500. Okay, this will give you a monthly payout of about $860 to about $930 per month for life. The lower number that you see here refers to the payouts for female, and the higher number is for males. And the reason why women get lower payouts is because statistically, women are known to live for a longer period of time. And between all of us who are sitting here today, I'm pretty sure you know the reasons why, but let's not talk about them. So the more you set aside in your retirement account, as you can see from this table, the more your payouts, the higher your payouts will be. So now let's now bring your attention to the last line, which is the enhanced retirement sum. At the enhanced retirement sum, which is now set to be 4 times that of the basic retirement sum, you can actually, if somebody is able to set aside $426 in their retirement account at 55 years old this year, they can be expected to receive about $3,300 plus minus for when they turn 65 years old for as long as they live. So if you think about it, if both a husband and a wife is able to set aside the enhanced retirement sum fully in cash, they are looking at about almost 6 to 6.5K of stable, guaranteed monthly payouts for life, which in today's terms is actually pretty decent, in my opinion. So if you're looking for a very simple, very plain vanilla, no-brainer kind of retirement plan, then which will give you a peace of mind, then this is the plan for you. But of course, as humans, we love to complicate things and we love to ask ourselves what if questions. And one of the most common questions, and these are some of the questions you've already submitted earlier, is that what if? What if I decide to wait until 65 years old, then I do the top up? Would I get the same amount of payout? Or the other second question that some of you may have is that, how come my CPF life payouts doesn't increase since my retirement account monies actually earn interest between 5.5 to 6.5? Okay, let's answer the second question first. The CPF life payouts that you see here already takes into consideration the interest that these monies are expected to earn throughout the next 10 years of his life, okay, over the next 10 years. So, which means when CPF board calculates these desired payouts of this estimated CPF life payouts at age of 65 years old, it is already taking into consideration what your monies in your retirement account would be earning over the next 10 years. So, what that means that the answer to the first question is that if you choose to top up later, it simply means that you will need to top up more to make up for the interest that you would have earned if you had topped up earlier. So let's use the ERS as an example. In order to get about 3,001 to 3,003 payout based on ERS at 65 years old, for somebody who's turning 55 today, they will need to set aside $426,000 in cash. Assuming they decide not to top up at 55 years old and wait until 60 years old, they will now need to top up to $512,700 to get the same level of payouts. And if they decide to wait until 65 years old instead to do this top up, then the amount they will need to top up to is $628,600. So to answer your question of what if I decide to wait instead, it simply means that you will need to make up for this difference in your own ways, whether it's through investments or other types of instruments. So you have to make up for this difference, the returns that you would have otherwise earned if you have left your money or topped up to your retirement account at 55 years old. But of course, having said this has to be a considered decision, since topping up to your CPF is actually an irreversible decision. And my boss loves to say that topping up the CPF is like joining secret society. When you put your money in, it's very easy to join, but very hard to get out of it. All right. And if you have any liquidity needs during the period of 5.5 to 6.5, you do need to consider carefully whether you would want your monies to be in a way set aside and locked up for this period of time. All right. Another common confusion that CPF members have is actually with regards to the different levels of retirement sums. Before 2016, we used to encounter, before 2016 and when I was still at CPF board, we used to encounter many CPF members who come forward and asked us, how much can I withdraw from my CPF when I turn 55? What's the minimum sum that I can set aside? What's the minimum sum that I need to set aside? And they get very upset when we tell them that you need to set aside this X amount because it's my money, right? Why do you have to restrict me? Then after 2016, we started to see a very different group of members. This time round, this group of members come and ask us, hey, how much can I put into my CPF? How much can I top up? And what are other 101 ways can I put more money into my CPF? And when we tell them there is a cap, they also get upset. So it's really very hard for the government to please anyone, right? But anyway, jokes aside, do you know what happened in 2016 that actually caused this shift in mindset? Simply very easy. We decided to rebrand minimum sum to retirement sum. So it's kind of like human psychology, I guess, because we don't want to be told that we have a restriction. Anyway, just to clear the air for everyone, is the retirement sum a minimum, a maximum, or what? Okay, it really depends on what you're looking at. For those of you who are looking to withdraw a lump sum cash after turning 55 years old, then the BRS is your minimum. And this number doesn't change after you turn 55 years old. So what this means is that if this year the basic retirement sum is 106,500, and next year, for example, if it becomes 120,000, you do not need to meet the new basic retirement sum. Your cohort retirement sum follows you throughout the rest of your life. Okay, and this basic retirement sum is sized based on the expenditure of a retiree in the lower middle range and owns a property. So it's basically the government's way of just trying to tell you that this is the minimum that you should have at retirement so that you can lead a decent lifestyle for your daily living expenses. Now, for those of you who want to top up before turning 55 years old, this is before 55, so you're still accumulating, the full retirement sum is your maximum. You cannot put more money, you cannot top up to your special account beyond the full retirement sum. And this applicable amount changes every single year. So if you are somebody who already has the full retirement sum in your special account, the so-called bad news for you is that there is no way you can do any more top-ups under the retirement topping up scheme. And the main reason I say this is because the retirement sum actually increases by about 3 to 3.5% every year, and your special account actually earns 4% interest. So based on the math alone, your interest every single year will be more than enough to cover whatever increase there is in the retirement sums. So once you have hit your FRS in your special account, chances are you won't be able to top up anymore until you turn 55 years old. So for those of you who want to do top up after you have turned 55, you're in your pre-retiree age or you're going to be in retirement, now the enhanced retirement sum, which has now been revised to 4 times that of the basic retirement sum, is your maximum. And this amount changes every single year. So every year when the ERS increases, you can think about topping it up to the new enhanced retirement sum, which will also then enhance your CPF life payouts. So regardless of the amounts that you set aside, no matter how much you have in your retirement account, you will still receive a monthly payout from 65 years old. Okay, so this is to address some misconception that some members have that if, you may used to hear that if I cannot set aside the basic retirement sum, I cannot retire already. But that's not the case. Even if you only have 10, 20,000 or $30,000 in your CPF accounts, you will still get a payout from 65 years old. The difference is how much and also from which scheme. So if you have less than 60,000 in your CPF when you turn 65 years old, your payouts will be streamed out through this very old scheme called the retirement sum scheme. If you have more than or equals to $60,000 in your CPF accounts in your retirement account at the age of 65 years old onwards, you will be getting your payouts through CPF Life. Okay, so I hope this helps you clear the air and helps you make sense of all the retirement sums around. Next, and finally, to address another common question that people have about retirement sums is, what is the future going to look like? Because the retirement sum keeps increasing every year, so how do I plan, right? So the government has already announced the retirement sums up to the year 2027, and you can see it on this table here, which is also pulled out from the CPF website. I'm guessing that they will likely announce the next tranche of increases, probably in 2026. But based on historical trends, you can see that the increase is roughly about 3.5% every year to keep pace with inflation. So if you really cannot wait until next year to see what the new numbers are, you can go ahead and do your own projections using about 3.5% increase every year. All right, so far we have discussed what happens when you turn 55 years old, and we have also talked about the different levels of retirement sums and how much payouts you're going to get from it and what each level means. When you choose to start your CPF Life payouts from the age of 65 years old, you will have to make another decision. And this decision is that you need to decide between one of 3 CPF Life plans, as it will determine how your CPF payouts will look like. Thus far, all the examples and all the numbers that I've shown you is based on the default standard plan. So to help you distinguish between these 3 plans, I've listed some of the defining characteristics here. Okay, first of all, we have the standard plan, which is also the default plan. The standard plan provides the highest starting payout across all 3 plans. The payouts are steady and level, which means it does not change throughout your entire drawdown period. And what this also means is that it will not help you keep pace with inflation. The second plan is the escalating plan. The escalating plan provides for the lowest starting payout among the three plans, about 20% lower than the standard plan. The main benefit of the escalating plan is that it provides growing payouts of about 2% per year to keep pace with inflation. So if you're somebody who's really very concerned about the cost of living and you want to make sure that the amount of money that you're going to get continues to grow every year with inflation so that you can maintain your standard of living, then perhaps the escalating plan could be for you. The third plan is the basic plan. The basic plan starts with lower starting payouts, is in the middle of these two, is about 10% lower than the standard plan. And the payouts do get progressively slightly lower towards the tail end. Roughly when you are about 90 years old and beyond, the payouts do increase slightly by a few percentage points. Like the standard plan, the basic plan also provides steady and level payouts throughout your entire payout period, so it does not keep pace with inflation. The benefit of the basic plan is that it does provide the highest bequest amount. So for somebody who's very concerned about legacy planning, then the basic plan could be a plan that is suitable for you. So but regardless of which plan you choose, all three CPF Life plans provide you for payouts for as long as you live. So how does the CPF Life the scheme work to sustain itself to provide payouts for everybody on the scheme for as long as they live? So for the longest time, I've experimented with multiple ways to explain this to people, and I found that using this analogy of a water bottle works for me, and I hope it'll work for you. Okay, so imagine you have 3 water bottles, okay? And these 3 water bottles would be your sustenance throughout your entire drawdown period during your retirement. When you turn 55 years old, the retirement account will be set up, and a portion of your CPF savings, probably the full retirement sum, enhanced retirement sum, whichever amount you decide, will be transferred to this first bottle. Okay, between 55 to the time when you decide to start your payouts, whatever money that you have in this account will continue to earn interest, and any interest that you earn goes back to this account. So everything in this first bottle belongs to you, and in event of death, it goes to your family. So when you decide to start your CPF Life payouts from 65 years old onwards, depending on which of the 3 CPF Life plans which I mentioned to you earlier, either a portion or all of the money from the first bottle will be transferred to the second bottle, which we will call annuity premium. So everything in this second bottle also belongs to you, and in event of death, to your family. Your annuity premium also earns interest, the same interest rates, okay, as your retirement account. The only difference here is that any interest earned on your annuity premium goes to a third bottle, and I call this third bottle for simplicity's sake, I call it pooled interest. Okay, so this third bottle will contain all the interest of the second bottles owned by everybody who is on CPF Life. So for member A, B, C, D, all the way to Z, all of them will have a second bottle. All the second bottle will earn interest. All their interest that is earned will go into this third bottle. So as you can see, this third bottle functions like a public property where everyone shares and contributes to it, but belongs to no one specifically. So this third bottle itself also earns interest, and any interest that it earns goes back to this pool. So when you start receiving your monthly payouts from 65 years old onwards, you will first receive your money, or you will first drink from this first bottle, which is your retirement account, plus interest. If you are still around after your first bottle has been depleted, you will now drink from your second bottle, which is your CPF Life annuity premium. Any event that, and if the good news or bad news case where you're still alive after both bottles have been depleted, you don't have to worry that you'll run out of water to drink, because you can now tap on the third bottle to sustain your payouts for as long as you live. And based on actual calculations on mortality rates, the rates of returns on the CPF accounts, CPF Board is very confident that this third bottle will be able to sustain the monthly payouts of all CPF Life members for as long as they live. Okay, so as I proceed in the next few slides to show you exactly how CPF Life works in practice, I'd like you to keep this analogy in mind because it may help you to better understand them. So assuming you decide to set aside the full retirement sum at the age of 55, and this year is 213,000 in your retirement account, these monies will continue to grow with interest over the next 10 years until you decide to start your payout. Okay, and this is equivalent to your first bottle. Assuming you decide to go with the basic plan, the plan that provides you with slightly lower payouts but higher bequests, when you start your payouts, about 10 to 20% of the water from your first bottle will be transferred to the second bottle. That means these monies will be used to join CPF Life. So I repeat, from your first bottle, under this basic plan, only about 10 to 20% of that monies will be transferred to the second bottle. Okay, and this is denoted as your annuity premium or AP in this diagram. When you start your payouts, you will first draw down from your first bottle, which is your retirement account monies. And this is estimated to be able to give you about 1,560 per month until about 90 years old. At this point, at about 90 years old, we do estimate that the retirement account monies, your first bottle, would run out. So you will start to drink from your second bottle or the annuity premium, which you had set aside many years ago. And you will continue to draw down from this annuity premium until it runs out, in which case, if you're still around, then you will start tapping into your third bottle, which is the pooled interest. So no matter what happens, your payouts will last you for life. So in the event of death, how much of it will go to your loved ones? Now, it really depends on when one passes away. If death occurs before payouts begin, anytime between 5/5 to 6/5, everything, if you recall, everything is still in your first bottle, and everything in the first bottle belongs to you and your family and will be bequeathed to them. If death occurs during 6/5 to 90, when payouts have already started, the bequest amount will be whatever is left in your first bottle that has not been paid out to you, and any interest that is credited into the retirement account, as well as your annuity premium. Because before 90 years old, you're not likely to have touched the annuity premium that you have used to join CPF Life. Now, if death occurs after 90 years old, the bequest amount will be the unused portion of the second bottle, as you would have already exhausted everything in the first one. So whatever the case may be, one of the things to take note of, and you are assured of, is that the sum total of all the payouts you have received up to that point of time, plus the bequest that is paid out to your loved ones in any, will be more than or equals to the annuity premium that you committed at payout start age. Okay, so this is the guarantee regardless of all three plans. This is a guarantee for you. Now, how does this differ from the standard plan? If you choose to go with the CPF Life standard plan, the main difference between these two is when it comes to starting your CPF Life payouts. Now, instead of only a portion of the monies from your retirement account being transferred to the annuity premium to join CPF Life, that means instead of only a portion of money from the first bottle going to the second bottle, all the monies in your first bottle will be transferred to your second bottle to join CPF Life. Everything, including all the interest earned to date. All right. You will then start to draw down directly from your annuity premium, which is your second bottle, which will give you a payout of about $1,700 per month. And once your second bottle is used up, you will draw down directly from your third bottle for the rest of your life. Now, in the event of death, the amount of bequest is again the same thing determined by when member passes away. If member passes away before 55, before payouts start, any unused portion, basically all the monies in your retirement account will be available as bequest for your loved ones. So, but if member passes away after payouts begin, the bequest amount will only be the unused portion of the second bottle. Okay, which is whatever that has already been used to join CPF Life with, less whatever has already been paid out to you. Again, the guarantee applies. The sum total of all your payouts that you receive to that point of time, plus the bequest amount that is left behind for your loved ones, will be definitely more than or equals to the annuity premium that was used to commit to CPF Life when you start. Now, the split between the three bottles remains the same for both standard plan and escalating plan. The main difference here is how the payout quantums change over the course of the drawdown period. Under the standard plan, your payouts remain level and fixed throughout. And under the escalating plan, you begin with a lower payout of about 2% lower, of about 20% lower, but this increases every single year by about 2% to keep pace with inflation. So based on our calculation, this means that we do expect that your escalating payout plan will have the same payout as standard plan at about age 78 or 13 years after you start your payout. However, in terms of the cumulative, so-called cumulative break even point, this will be actually closer to 88 or 90 years old. So based on this, you can do your own math and your own calculation to decide whether the CPF Life escalating plan really makes sense for you. So to summarize, here are all the payout quantums for all three plans. Okay, so without using the bequest to complicate your decision making, most people will just go for the standard plan because it provides the highest starting payout. And for most people, the payouts are the most important things. And that is also why the standard plan is the default plan. So when you decide to start your payouts, CPF Life will ask you to make a decision. If you choose not to make a decision, then you will be automatically placed on the standard plan. All right. But of course, as usual, humans like to complicate their lives. So the next question you may ask me is, what if I want to factor legacy and bequest into the picture? Which plan is better for me? So in this table, which is going to be very obsolete soon because CPF board has actually removed the bequest feature from their calculator. So we managed to capture the payouts and corresponding bequest numbers for a male CPF member who turned 55 4 years ago. So we are not able to find these numbers anymore in the new calculator. That's why this slide hasn't been updated. So that's why I'm also saying that eventually it will be obsolete. But it does provide some insights on how the different numbers work. So once you weave the bequest into the picture, you'll realize that it becomes harder for you to decide between the standard and basic plan. Specifically, let me bring your attention to this column. Should death occur at the age of 85 years old, the bequest amount between the three plans is very, very stark, almost 100K difference between the basic plan and the other two plans. Yet, in terms of the monthly payout between the standard and basic, we're only looking at about $100+ difference per month. So a quick math will tell you that mathematically, from a mathematical perspective, the basic plan is superior to the standard plan. And the main reason for this bequest being so different can be explained by that three-bottle analogy that I shared with you earlier. So if you recall, in the standard and escalating plan, all the RA monies is used to join CPF Life. All the RA monies in the first bottle goes to the second bottle. And the interest earned on this second bottle is transferred to the third bottle, which is used to support the payouts of everybody who is on the CPF Life scheme, including yourself. But in the event of death, this interest component does not form part of your bequest. Comparatively, for the basic plan, a smaller portion is actually transferred to the second bottle. So most of the savings actually remains in the first one, in your retirement account, and all the interest that is earned on your retirement account monies will be credited back to the retirement account in the first bottle. So in the event of death, everything in the first bottle belongs to you and your family members. So having said all this, which of these plans is better? In the end, we can probably argue until the cows come home over a table of numbers, but the reality is that none of us have a contract with God. We don't really know when He's going to call us to go home, right? And so to make things really simple for us is to help us to decide to focus on the payout quantum and which level suits you best based on your financial situation. And if it helps put into perspective about this bequest amount, no matter which plan you are on, this money doesn't go to the government. Monies in this third bottle is used to support yourself, your spouse, your extended family, your friends, your loved ones, someone else who is on CPF Life. So now that you understand how CPF Life works and all the retirement sums, should you top up to the ERS then? And in the end, this actually all boils down to how much you really need for retirement. So to help you determine what is a suitable level of payout, I usually like to use this concept of a safe retirement income base. Okay, when it comes to CPF, we sometimes forget to look at it holistically from the perspective of what our retirement needs really are and what other sources of income we already have. So at Provident, we advise our clients to actually split their retirement expenses into two categories. The first is essential expenses, that monies that you need to spend on very daily living expenses such as food, transport, utilities for your daily living. And also good to have expenses such as, and the second category is good to have expenses such as your travel or your entertainment budget. We then pair the type of expense with a suitable instrument to fund these expenses. So for essential expenses, for your day-to-day living needs and the monies that you really need to have, we prefer instruments that are safe, consistent, and reliable so that you can be assured of having the money when you need it. So examples of this would include your payouts from CPF Life, maybe coupons that you can get from your T-bills or government bonds, as well as retirement income insurance plans if you have bought any. Rental income can possibly be considered in this category also. For the good to have expenses, we typically fund these using a bucket system made up of well-diversified investment portfolios so that you can retain some control and flexibility in terms of your monies, as well as enjoy the potential upside while investing in the markets. So when it comes to deciding really how much you should have in your CPF, whether you should have the full retirement sum or you should just top up all the way to ERS and don't think about it anymore, the first step really begins with knowing how much you really need as your essential expenses during retirement, and also what other sources of income you already have. So I hope this framework will provide you some perspective to help you make up your mind. Now, I hope by the time that I reach this slide, I would have addressed most of the common misconceptions that people have about CPF Life. And if you still cannot get the correct answer for the next 3 questions I'm going to ask, I'm going to stand at one corner and pull my ear later. All right, number 1, my loved ones will not get a bequest when I passed away. Okay, for those of you who are listening in, I'm going to give you 5 seconds to think about the answer before I give you the reply. So the answer is, it depends. Okay, all the CPF Life plan comes with a bequest feature, but the amount of bequest that you get, if any at all, is really dependent on when member passes away. If you recall the table that I shared with you earlier, if member passes away from 95 years old onwards, chances are there's no more bequest left behind because they would have already fully benefited from whatever monies they have used to join CPF Life with. All right, question 2. Monies in CPF Life does not earn any interest. True or false? Okay, the answer is false. Monies in your CPF Life earns interest of up to 6% per annum, the same as your retirement account. Otherwise, there is no way that the scheme is able to sustain the payouts for life for everyone on it. Number 3, I have to top up to the new full retirement sum every year when it increases. True or false? Okay, again, the answer is false. There is actually no need for you to top up every year when it increases. You only top up if you want to maximize your CPF Life payouts or as part of your retirement planning up to enhanced retirement sum, but that is entirely up to you. It is your choice. Even if you don't meet the various retirement sums, you will still be assured of a payout based on the retirement account monies that you have when you turn 55 years old. All right, to summarize everything, today, for those of you who are listening in and you are accumulating towards your retirement, begin with an end in mind. CPF is a good and safe option for you to build your nest egg, but it does have its limitations. For example, the monies are inside, it's not as liquid as you'd like it to be, and there is also a cap on how much you can put inside. Number two, your accumulation plan must end with a spending plan that can mitigate the risk faced by retirees. I mean, that's the whole point of retirement planning. It's not just for you to accumulate sufficient monies and then just decide to spend out everything within the next 1 year. You do need a spending down plan that will ensure that you will have sufficient payouts to last you for as long as you live. So for those of you who are sitting in, and CPF Life is the best annuity in the market by far. So if you are a near retiree or you're already in retirement, you may want to consider using the Safe Retirement Income Base concept that I shared with you earlier to help you decide how to structure your spending patterns and to match it with the right instruments, suitable instruments. So for your essential expenses, CPF Life is a suitable instrument because it provides you with safe, stable, and consistent payouts. And if you realize after having done all your calculations and planning that actually you don't need to invest anymore, you are happy with whatever you have, maybe it's time to just kick off your shoes and enjoy your retirement with a peace of mind. So let me end my presentation by sharing with you a story. Many years ago, when I was still a CPF board officer, I spoke to a CPF member who was about 60 years old. He came out to speak to me after a talk, and I remember this very vividly because it was during the haze period, and it was a talk that most people didn't turn up. So it was very rare to see somebody who would actually brave the haze to come and talk to us about CPF. Okay, he told me that he's actually a remiser. He used to work as a remiser, trading in stocks and shares, and he was pretty successful in building a sizable portfolio. And now he wanted to talk to somebody in CPF board to see how he can put all his money into CPF, which obviously was not possible because we have limits. All right, so I asked him then why he wanted to do all that, because clearly he has the financial acumen, right, to be able to manage his own portfolio. And I will always remember his reply. He told me, "Girl, one day you will understand when you reach my age that it's actually very stressful to manage your money. And at this stage of my life, I just want to enjoy it." Thank you very much. And I'll just pass your time now back to Gerald.
Thanks, Lina, for the very insightful sharing, and also ending off with the story around how we should go about enjoying our retirements. Before we go to the next segment, I think what we really wanted to understand a bit more about that the participants might have questions on is that if you don't actually have got sufficient savings for your retirement, what are some of the tips and tricks that are then possible for us to be able to grow our CPF savings? So that is effectively what our next speaker, Xing Shi from Endowers, will be sharing with us about to help us understand what are some of these things that we can consider to be able to grow our CPF funds. Over to you, Xing Shi.
Hi everyone. Thanks Lina for the great sharing. I particularly like the bottle analogy that you're giving, right, to help me understand how the annuity portion of CPF Life works. And yeah, at least for my part, you won't be pulling your ears because I got all the answers correct. And I'm sure for my parents and a few of my relatives, they would appreciate your sharing on CPF Life. So I think Lina covered a lot on how to understand CPF Life and how to choose the right CPF Life option for your lifestyle, right? I would like to share a little bit more about how do you get more in your OA, SA, or even your RA balance in the first place so that you have the luxury of choice to choose the enhanced retirement sum if you so wish to, right? I understand that, out of all the 100 plus listeners that we have here today, all of us have different CPF balances, right? So I'll be sharing a little bit more of the different strategies that you can take based on your existing CPF balance. And I also want everyone to have a mindset that, you are just not listening in for yourself. You might be listening in on behalf of your spouse. You might also be listening in on behalf of your parents who you might be considering to top up their CPF for them, right? Or you might be listening for a relative who is not so familiar with CPF, right? So keep an open mind. There's many different perspectives that you can take from the sharing that I'll be giving later on. Okay, so for a start, maybe if we can have the poll out, I would love to find out from you guys what age group are you in, right? Are you below the age of 45, between the age of 46 to 55? between 56 to 65, right, waiting for your first payout later on in 65 and beyond? Or are you, already, receiving some payouts either from CPF Life or the past schemes? So if you can fill up this multiple choice. Okay, SIAS team, please feel free to, flesh out the answer if there is enough replies. Okay, it seems that we have quite a concentrated group of people around between the age of 46 to 65. Cool. So yeah, whatever I'm sharing later on would be useful for everyone, regardless, right? Be it for yourself or for your immediate family member. But before that, let me just do a quick disclaimer, right? Whatever I'm sharing today is not meant to be financial advice. If you need more help with your investing or CPF options, please feel free to go and speak to a financial advisor, and they'll be able to help you more directly. Okay, let me just move on. Yeah, so what I'm going to share today, right? I'll first start off with a few examples of what different CPF members can do with their CPF balances, right? So that will be individuals beyond the age of 55, and how, based on their existing OA or SA balance or their RA balance, what can they use in terms of the government scheme or in terms of some of the CPF mechanisms so that they can grow their CPF balance more, right? So I'll go into detail of each top-up or transfer strategies, right? And of course, the best that we can do is to get more money from the government, right? And how do we go about doing it? Is there some way that ourselves or even our loved ones will be able to get some tax relief from these top-ups? I'll be sharing details of that as well, right? So that will be the first two parts of my presentation. Later on, I'll be talking a little bit more about misconceptions on CPF investing, right? So to be clear, right, not everyone should be considering to invest their CPF. But before I even go into that, what are the good principles of good investing and how would that apply to CPF investing? I'll cover that. I'll also cover some common misunderstanding on CPF that you often see in the news. Then lastly, I'll talk about how you should be investing your CPF so that you can do it well. Okay, so let's get straight into it. So what can older CPF members do? Right. First off, I want to start that not many CPF members are able to set aside the full retirement sum. Right. The full retirement sum this year is $213,000, and that's including monies in the OA account as well as the special account. Right. Many CPF members are not able to hit the full retirement sum in cash. Right. So there might be individuals who are able to hit that amount by pledging their CPF property. Right. You can see that by pledging their property, right, so that they can hit the basic retirement sum requirement and withdraw the remainder of their CPF balances, right? So that number is actually 57%. Okay, so but if you were to look at individuals who have in cash, right, within their OA and SA account, only 40% of them have the full retirement sum in their CPF account in 2023, right? Of course, we are looking the entire pool of CPF members, including inactive CPF members like housewives, people who are unemployed, and so on, right? But the 40% figure is not a very big figure, right? And the CPF full retirement sum baseline gives a baseline retirement income, right? It's not a big amount of money, right? So I think as a family member, as a relative, we should be, and even as a son or daughter, we should be thinking about how we can help our immediate family members to get a baseline retirement income, especially if we are also able to get some goodies for ourselves or our loved one along the way, right? So that's really the purpose of my sharing today, right? So there are many different strategies. I try to break it down into people who has a much lower CPF balance to someone who has a little bit more with CPF balance. Then later on, someone with are able to hit the full retirement sum, right? But are looking to grow their CPF life balances potentially to enhance retirement sum and beyond, right? So all of these strategies is quite different, right? Mainly because obviously the government schemes wants to be helping people who are having a lower CPF balance, right? And encourage their family members to help each other out more, right? So the incentives that are given for those people with a lower CPF balance is of course going to be a lot more attractive than those people who are doing better. And of course, those people who are doing very, very well, right? Then there's not going to be much incentives that's going to be given out by the government. Right. For example, if you don't have the your RA account, right, don't have less than the basic retirement sum, right? I would say that the strategy is to think about how you can leverage on government schemes to grow your CPF balance, because some of this scheme, which I'll go into detail later, is very attractive, right? Currently, that we have the match retirement savings scheme, right, where you basically get $2,000 on an annual basis. If you or someone were to top up on your behalf $2,000 cash into your retirement account, right, the government will deposit $2,000 account sometime in the future, right, so that you have a bigger retirement account balance, right? So this is very attractive. I'll go into the details of that later on. Not everyone is eligible for it beyond just having less than a BRS, right? So consider that. Right. For another group of people, right, who has less than the full retirement sum, right, but more than the basic retirement sum, right. So for these individuals, you can consider topping up cash into your CPF special account or retirement account, right. So in this case, this strategy of topping up cash to SA or RA, and also getting a spouse or your kids to go and do it for you, you can get some tax relief from it. And of course, when you top up the money, that cash gives you an attractive CPF SA and RA rate, which is currently at a float at 4%, right? So do consider that. Previously, in the past, match retirement savings scheme, you'll be able to get both the tax relief as well as the matching sum from the government, right? But now you have to choose either or, right? Of course, if you are going to get a matching grant from the government, then you don't want to get tax relief, and if you just want to get the tax relief, then it doesn't quite make sense, because the tax relief is going to be less than the matching amount from the government, right? So for those people who don't really have the full retirement sum in cash, be it whether you are in your 50s or 60s, do consider topping up your CPF special account. And lastly, you can also, if you have more than a full retirement sum, right, you may want to consider growing your CPF to the enhanced retirement sum if you want a greater pool of stable retirement income, right? So what you can do, of course, is to go and transfer excess or OA monies or even cash to your retirement account, right, as what Lina was sharing just now, right? This will allow you to get an extra 1.5% interest. Right. So it's as what Lina was sharing just now, right? Once you hit the full retirement sum, any monies that is meant to go into the special account or retirement account will no longer go into your RA, right? It will actually go into ordinary account. So what you need to do very proactively is to go and transfer that money that is into the OA, right, into your RA account, so that you can earn more interest from CPF. Right. For some of you, you might also consider, investing your CPF OA monies into risk-appropriate products for higher returns, right? So that's actually an option for available to anyone with more than $20,000 in their CPF. But I would say that if you are at an older age, right, you should be thinking of how to get lower risk low risk or no risk returns from the government, while getting some tax relief or matching monies from the government, right? So this is how I would encourage people to think about it, right? Obviously, if you are going to be, obviously, if you have a lower CPF balance, you should be thinking about getting matching grants from the government rather than prioritizing your investments, right? Not saying that they are mutually exclusive, right? But the strategies are like this, as I shared just now. Okay, so how do we think about CPF top-ups for a larger RA balance, right? Sharing more details about the match retirement savings scheme, right? It is a scheme trying to encourage older CPF members and their families to help save up for retirement income, right? It's meant for individuals who don't have much in their CPF balance, right? Less than the basic retirement sum, right? And you will get $2,000 into your CPF RA account, right? If you top up $2,000 in cash, right? So the maximum that you can get is $20,000 for lifetime, right? So you are free to go and top up $1,000, $500 if you so wish to, and then you will get a dollar for dollar matching amount from the government. I think sometime in next year if you were to do the top up this year, right? So the thing to point out here is that it no longer offers tax relief for the party making the top ups, right? So be it yourself or your children, if they were to top up on your behalf, they will no longer get tax relief. Right. So who is eligible party for this MRSS? There are some criteria to it. I would encourage you to Google Match Retirement Savings Scheme (CPF), and what turns up in the top search top search result is actually a CPF eligibility kind of questionnaire, right? So you just need to key in your personal details and they will tell you whether you're eligible for MRSS. But generally, the principle behind it is that it's meant for members with a lower income, does not have many properties, retirement account with less than current PRS, and older, right? So, someone that's above the age of 55 and 70, right? So do consider that. And the other side of things, right, going back to the middle column where you have not hit the full retirement sum, right? So if you have not hit the full retirement sum, you can definitely top up cash into your CPF balance so that you hit the full retirement sum, right? And when you do that, you'll be able to get more interest and also get tax relief. So I'm talking about this row below here, right? So you can top up any amount that you want, right? But the maximum tax relief that you can get is $8,000, right? And this $8,000 is actually tax relief that's shared with the MediSave top-up scheme, right? So you will not be able to get more than $8,000 worth of tax relief if you were to do CPF self-top-up. Right, and of course, as I was sharing just now, these kind of schemes is not meant to help richer CPF members get even richer, right? So there is a hard cap towards how much you can top up, right? And this cap is at either the basic healthcare sum or the CPF full retirement sum, the prevailing full retirement sum, which as Lina was sharing just now is $213,000. Okay, so this is a self top up. And for those of you who wants to get your children to top up on your behalf, right? Because you are a parent or grandparent, so this is the scheme, right? You can they can enjoy up to $8,000 worth of tax relief, but of course, if they have the ability to top up more, that's you can ask of it from them. If they have some cash flow issues and would rather top up a smaller amount and on a consistent basis, that's fine as well, right? There's no transaction fees or minimum top up amount when it comes to CPF. So do whatever makes sense for you or your loved one that you're topping up on behalf of, right? And generally, the tax relief limit for this is the full retirement sum, right? They have some complicated criteria already, but as long as you have not hit the full retirement sum, after taking into account your investments, after taking into account your RA savings, then your loved ones will be able to top up on your behalf, right? I was sharing just now that many CPF members are not active CPF members, right? That meaning to say they are not getting monthly contribution from their employment recently, right? Because they're not employed, right? So for those of you who have a spouse that you want to support, please consider topping up into their CPF account. You get tax relief for it as well, as long as they are not, making an income or making very low income. Okay, so that is it for the top-ups. Then now we move on to the last column, right? For those individuals who has more than the full retirement sum, right, but are looking to growing that full retirement sum to the enhanced retirement sum, right? One strategy to do so is to transfer your cash or ordinary account monies into your retirement account monies, right? So why do you want to go and do this? Obviously, because the 2.5% is not as attractive as the 4% risk-free interest from CPF retirement account, right? So you do get more attractive risk-free interest in exchange for liquidity, right? So those will be that liquidity concern is really for people who have less cash at hand or less investments at hand and is reliant on CPF balance, a drawdown of CPF balances for their retirement income, right? So if you have no immediate need for cash and CPF OA, potentially because you have other investments and potentially because you also are still working, right? Then you can consider topping up your CPF OA monies or cash into your retirement account, right? So yeah, this is largely for people who prefers larger baseline retirement income, right? I just also want to point out that when you go and top up these monies, it's not that all of it is cannot be withdrawn. Actually, up to 20% of your RA savings, excluding any cash top up, CPF transfer, and government grants, less the unconditional $5,000 that you can withdraw, can be withdrawn at 65, right? So do consider that. It's not all the money is locked up for good. Yeah. So that is it when it comes to you trying to use the CPF system to get some tax relief, get some risk-free interest, as well as maybe even getting some matching top-ups from the government, right? Beyond that, what the CPF's ordinary account scheme also enable is CPF investments, right? Which is administered under the CPF investment scheme, right? So I want to talk about a few common misconceptions when it comes to CPF investing. And then I will talk about how you can have, if you were to adhere to certain investing best practices, you'll be able to have a better chance of investment success, right? So many people have actually pretty poor experience when it comes to investing their CPF, right? So there's many reasons behind it. One reason is that people have a wrong expectation of CPF investments. They might have financial advisors or people telling them that investments are giving them certain expectation of investment, but the market turns out poorly and they sold at a loss, right? So that could be one reason. Another reason is also the high cost of CPF investments, right? So previously, platform fees for CPF investments could be as high as 1% per annum, right? And if you factor in things like sales charges, very high cost of investing in funds, all of these costs adds up to 4 plus 5% cost, right? And that would also, of course, lead to poorer investment outcome, right? Because before you even start investing, you're actually down 3 or 4% or even 5% due to investment costs, right? So some of these issues with CPF investing is already been addressed, right? So CPF have mandated platforms to only be able to charge 0.4% platform fee or rep fee, right? Sales charges has also been made illegal, right, for CPF investment. So there's no way any advisor or any broker will be able to charge any sales charges for CPF investments, right? So investment outcome should be a lot better, right? So I just want to share some headlines from Straits Times. In 2016, the headline is like many CPF members get their fingers burned. Only 15% made more than 2.5% and 40% make losses, right? And slightly more recently, in July 2021, right, you see that 1 in 2 CPF members actually end up worse off than the 2.5%, right? So some of the figures quoted here is actually on a very short investment horizon, right? And it's also with the backdrop of some of the prior to this fee revision that CPF has mandated, right? So you can see that yeah, the later headlines are a lot more positive, right? CPF fee cuts are actually being executed on, and what people should be expecting now is that there should be better CPF investment outcomes, right? So one of the common misconceptions is that I guess many CPF members are spending their OA contributions into property and they don't really have monies for CPF investments, right? But the figures from CPF statistics actually show otherwise. Across the years from 2006 to 2023, you see that CPF balance have really ballooned up, right? Partially because of increased contribution, we are earning more. As a nation, we are getting more bonus as well. We are also getting more compounding interest from CPF, right? So you see that there's a really healthy increase in CPF OA balance amount, right? 6.9%. And very interestingly, you wouldn't be seeing a very high amount of money that's being withdrawn for property purposes, right? So the amount of CPF OA monies that are withdrawn for property, be it for public or private housing, right? The combined amount, it increased from 124 billion, right, to 272 billion, right? So that's a 4.7% per annum increase. It's actually less than the overall OA balance increase, right? And what is actually not so surprising to me, but very, very surprising to many of my friends and colleagues, is that the CPF investment schemes actually seen a overall decrease in total cost of current holdings, right? This figure basically just means that the amount that's withdrawn from CPF OA monies, right, for investment purposes actually decreased between 2006 to 2023, right? I was expecting that with the very attractive T-bill rates as well as fixed deposit rates from that you can put into for CPF with CPF OA monies, you will be expecting a much larger figure here, right? Because you are also getting risk-free returns with T-bills, right? But what we actually see is that there's not much interest, right? So the figure that is actually placed into things like T-bills is around $4.8 billion, right? That's invested between January to March. And if you were to see the CPF OA cost of holdings, right, right before the spike in interest rates in T-bills, that balance is around only this figure here that you're seeing, right? In 2017 and 2018, it's only 17 or 18 billion, right? So the decrease is going to be a lot more drastic if you were to take, strip out the amount of CPF OA monies that are invested in T-bills, right? So there isn't really many people considering CPF investments, right? So what is that information gap, and why are people not considering investing their CPF, right? So first of all, I think it's good to understand what you should be ready whether you are appropriate for CPF investments, right? And what are the good investment principles that you have to stick to, right? So the good investment principles for CPF OA monies is not any different from your cash holdings as well, right? The only thing that you have to maybe think about is whether you're able to beat that 2.5% risk-free returns from CPF, right? How do you go about doing it, right? So the first thing that you have to do is to be very intentional with how you think about your investment goals, right? And work backwards to how much you need, right? And specifically for CPF, it might be telling yourself that, hey, I need to get another 100K into my CPF, so that I will eventually be able to hit the enhanced retirement sum, right? By knowing that you need $100,000 maybe in 10 years time, right? You can work backwards to find out, whether it's possible for you to be able to hit that goal, and what's a risk appropriate portfolio along the way, right? So be intentional about it, and then you will be in a better position, right? And of course, the next thing, this is more for people who are younger, right? But of course, if you're in your early 40s, you should also be thinking about this way as well, right? Start early, and think about dollar cost averaging into your CPF investments if you so wish to, right? This is not any different from your cash investments. Know what next thing is, of course, to know what you're investing in and try to diversify, right? You don't want to buy a single stock for your retirement monies, right? It makes a lot more sense for you to take on speculative positions, right, with your cash monies rather than your CPF money. So generally for CPF investments, you will want to be very disciplined, a lot more diversified when it comes to your choice of investment instruments. And then of course there's a quote from Warren Buffett, right? The stock market is a device to transfer monies from the impatient to the patient. And especially for CPF investments, you have to be very, very patient, right? Because the money is locked, in some sense, for those of you who are younger, it's locked up. You can't see and use it immediately, right? And for some people, it actually builds better investment behavior because they don't feel the urge to go and sell off when markets are down, right? Because there's no immediate impact to them, right? So be patient with your CPF monies if you so choose to invest in them. Right. But is CPF investments appropriate for everyone, right? But the answer clearly is no, right? Because again, all of us have different circumstances. We have different ages. We are at different age as well, and there are many different options that you can choose to grow your CPF without having to think about CPF investment, right? So a very simple checklist that you have to go through, right, before you commit to this long-term plan, right, is to firstly make sure that you have more than $20,000 in your CPF OA. Right, you need to also be sure that you are setting aside any CPF OA balance that's needed for housing or mortgage needs in the next 3 to 5 years. Right. Obviously, you also need to understand the opportunity cost of investing your CPF. You are, forsaking that 2.5% risk-free return. You are potentially also forsaking that 4% risk-free return, right? If you choose to go and top up your special account or your retirement account from your OA, right, you are effectively forsaking that 4% risk-free return for potentially higher return from the equities market, right, but with volatility, right? Of course, you also have to research and understand the different CPF investment options out there. Some of it work quite differently from a cash investments. There is additional costs. The kind of brokerage and instruments available to you is very different, right? So do understand the range of products available. Then, of course, the last thing is that you have to, go through a self-assessment questionnaire from CPF board, right, before you'll be able to open a CPF investment account with any of the 3 local banks, right? So make sure you go through this checklist. Be aware of the options within CPF that you can utilize before thinking about investment, right? And again, I want to emphasize, CPF investing is not for everyone. Yeah, so what kind of investment options are there available on CPF? And, is it really that poor compared to cash, what I can do with my cash or even SRS, right? So the CPF investment scheme, there's still a way for you to get higher returns. You are not just limited to the local stock exchange, right? You are able to get some exposure in foreign markets through unit trust or mutual funds, right? These funds could potentially be invested in active strategy, right? Where the fund managers picks out a certain investment strategy for you, right? Execute on a specific investment strategy on your behalf, or it can even be invested in through like an index strategy where they are replicating a benchmark like a S&P 500 or a MSCI World Index, right? So those options are available. You can still get global markets, equities or fixed income exposure through CPFIS, right? So there are different constraints that are available for CPF OA accounts and special account, right? For ordinary account, they actually offer you a wider range of investment solutions as well as a looser constraint, right? So you see, for unit trust, you can invest 100% of your investable CPF OA balance fully in unit trust, right? So for example, if you have $100,000 in your CPF ordinary account, right, 20% of $20,000 of it cannot be invested, right? $80,000 of it will be 100% of that $80,000 can be invested in unit trust. Same for ETFs, ILPs, Singapore government bonds, T-bills. But when it comes to single stock picks, right, the government or rather the CPF board restricts that investable savings to up to 35%, right? So you can't 35% of the $80,000 could be invested in single stocks, but beyond that, you will no longer be able to invest in single stocks, right? And only 10% of the investable amount can be allowed to buy gold ETFs or other gold products. Right, for CPF special account, the constraints is going to be a lot tighter, right? So you will not be able to buy higher risk, unit trust. You can only buy the riskiest is only like a balanced bond fund, right? With like equities and fixed income mix, right? And for the other products, you can only just buy basically just fixed income exposure, right? So generally, the guidance is not to invest a CPF special account, right? Because number one, the opportunity cost of investing a special account is at 4%, right? And because you are unable to invest in riskier products, even if you have the largest risk appetite and you have the longest investment horizon, right? Because of all these investment constraints, it's going to be very difficult for you to beat the 4% risk-free return, right? So generally, you would only consider investing a CPF ordinary account. Yes, so I'm going to end off with this slide. This slide shows you, how you should be thinking about market volatility across a very short time frame and across a very long time frame, right? So investing long term really just improves your probability of returns, right? Getting decent returns, and maybe let me navigate you through how this chart comes about, right? So we are looking at time frame of between early 2000s all the way to October 2024, right? So within that investment time frame, right, you can split it up to different range of investing horizon, right? A 1 year time frame, multiple 1 year time frames, and multiple 5 year time frames, and multiple 20-year time frames, right? So when we have these multiple different time frames, we are looking at the range of returns across these multiple 1 year time frames, and we are going to calculate the average returns over that period, the best and the worst returns over the period, and to make sure that the data is comparable across the different time frames. For the 20-year time frame, 5 years time frame, 3 years time frame, 2 year time frame, we are going to analyze the figures so they are comparable, right? And the figures we can make sense of the figures, right? So what you will see from all these figures is that the range of investment, the best and worst outcome for a 1 year time frame versus a 20-year time frame is going to be very, very different, right? So for a 1 year time frame, investing in the equities market is as good as speculation, right? Because you can do as well as 47.7% per annum, or as poorly as negative 42.6% per annum, right? And bearing in mind, this is invested in global markets index, right? So the volatility here is out of the roof, right? There's no certainty of outcome, right? You are as good as gambling with your retirement money, right? In the case of this presentation, you are effectively gambling with your CPF monies, right? And we were probably better off, putting your CPF monies in T-bills, putting your CPF monies as it is, right, without doing anything with it, if you just need the money in 1 year time, right? So for those of you who are considering to, buy a property with your CPF monies in 1 year time, 2 years time, 3 years time, please don't invest in equities market, because you are making a very big bet here, right? But of course, if you are looking at a much longer time frame, right, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, right, the range of returns are going to be smaller, right? Mainly because you are invested across both bull markets and bear markets, right? So the best outcome is not going to be as attractive, but the worst outcome is going to be less poor as well, right? Because you are buying into bad markets and poor markets, right? So you can see the range of the worst return over a 20-year time frame, right? Will be 2.9% for 20 years. And this is absolute worst period, right? So for most of us, if we were to dollar cost average into the markets, we hold on consistently for a long period of time, the chances of us succeeding is going to be a lot higher, and it's going to look more like a 5.9%, 5+%, 4% kind of return if we were to invest consistently. Right. So do make a conscious decision to invest for the long term if you were to choose to invest in the equities market. Otherwise, you can just invest in T-bills or just leave your CPF monies there. Right. So this is the end of my presentation. Right. For those of you who are interested to learn more about managing your CPF, want to get a copy of today's slide, you can just scan this QR code, and I just need your email address and your name. Then I'll be sending you some materials on CPF investing, CPF management, some of the webinars that we have done with the rest of the Endowers team, right? So they can learn more about CPF management, right? CPF is a very, very long topic, and I'm very surprised that we have still so many of you with us after 1 hours and 40 minutes. But it's something that we should be we should get more comfortable with. So please, if you are interested to learn more, scan the QR code, leave your email address, and I'll be very happy to share more. But other than that, that's all for my presentation. And yeah, passing the time back to you, Gerald.
Thanks, Shing-Shi, for the very detailed explanation on some of the tips that we can use to be able to grow our CPF money. At this point, I'd like to invite Lina back as well. We have got a lot of questions from the participants, both pre-submitted as well as the live questions. It isn't that you haven't been able to explain these answers to us previously, but I think many of us just want further clarification on a topic that involves our retirement savings. So maybe I'll start with some pre-submitted questions on CPF Live. I see quite a number of them, and I think that probably reflects how this is something that is still foreign to many of the participants tonight. Maybe I'll start with a relatively straightforward question relating to CPF Live. This might be something that you have explained previously, Lina, but maybe to help us understand a bit better, what happens to an individual's funds under CPF Live should he pass on within 5 years from the start of the withdrawal? Maybe you can use back the 3 bottles that you shared with us earlier to be able to explain once again what then happens to our CPF funds.
Okay, hi, thanks for inviting me back for the Q&A, and thank you all of you for staying behind for the Q&A as well and being very good audience. So to answer the question with regards to what happens to your CPF monies upon death, 5 years after payouts have started, we can actually I don't want to share my slides again, but I will just go back to the understanding of when it depends on which CPF Life plan you are on. So if you have chosen the CPF Life Standard Plan, for example, then most of the monies will actually be set, actually all the monies is actually set aside as annuity premium. So, and you will start to draw down from the annuity premium, which is your second bottle. So in the event of after 5 years of payouts, assuming you set, okay, let's start with an example. Assuming you joined with 200K, and after 5 years of payouts, you have already drawn down maybe about $30,000. So of the $200,000, you will less off the 30K that you have already received in payouts, and your bequest amount would be about 170,000. And this amount will be paid off to your loved ones together with all your other CPF savings that are still in your ordinary and Medisave account. Yeah, I don't know whether your question is also specific to how these monies will be distributed, because depending on whether you have a CPF nomination or you do not have a CPF nomination, the monies will also be distributed to your loved ones in different ways. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for the explanation. I'll jump to a live question that's been submitted. For the 100+ participants who are here with us tonight, if you have got questions for Lina or Shing-Shi, do go to the Q&A box and type in your question, and I'll pick on these questions through this evening. So this is a question from Muru. Do we have the flexibility of choosing or changing which CPF life plan we have selected for those turning 55 and for those who have already turned 55?
Okay, so just to clarify in terms of how the administration is done, right? You actually choose your CPF life plan only upon when you want to start your payouts, not at 55 years old. So therefore, you will just, at 55, the main decision you have to make is to decide how much money you want to set aside in your retirement account or whether you want to top up, etc. At 65 years old onwards, you will receive a letter from CPF board who asks you, hey, do you want to start your payouts or not? Now it's 65 years already. Do you want to start at 65, 66, 67, or all the way to 70? And if you choose to then say that, okay, at 68 years old, I want to respond to the letter, I want to start my payouts, then CPF board will ask you which CPF life plan do you want to start your payouts on. That's when you have to choose between one of 3 plans. So it provides you with greater clarity in terms of what your financial situation is, and then you can decide which is a more suitable plan for you. If you have already started your payouts, you have to, sorry, coughing, hold on for a while. So if you have already started your payouts, you actually only have about 30 days, like a free look period, right? In order for you to switch between the different plans. So let's say you start with a standard plan, and then you decide that maybe I want a basic plan. You have within 30 days of starting your payout to make that switch.
Okay, so related question, if I top up to ERS at 55, can I reduce to FRS at 65?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, this is like a secret society, Once you join, once you top up the monies to the retirement account, the money can only go in one way. And when the money, it cannot be withdrawn as a lump sum thereafter. It will be withdrawn in monthly payouts. But Sheng-Shi did bring a point out just now earlier regarding the 20% withdrawal rule, which applies from 65 onwards. If you find that at 65, you actually want some liquidity because maybe unplanned foreseen circumstances, you can actually withdraw 20% of your retirement account savings to fund these needs. So the short answer to your question is that no, you cannot withdraw, you cannot top up to FRS, add ERS, and then draw down to FRS after that.
Yeah, Lina, maybe I also want to add in like a slightly different perspective, right?
Mm.
The way I try to think about that 55-year-old like milestone is that you are essentially deciding how much you are able to withdraw from your CPF account, right? So if you were to choose for BRS, for example, then you have to pledge your property. Then more from your CPF balance will be withdrawable, right? But with regards to which plan are you on, whether you need to go and have ERS, BRS, or even FRS, between FRS and ERS, you can actually decide it much later on at 65 and beyond. Yeah. So the way I think about the 55-year-old milestone is not so much about deciding on CPF life plan, but really thinking more about like what you want to withdraw from your CPF balance.
I mean, in a way, yes and no, like different perspective. Yes, CPF life plan only decide at 65 when you want to start payouts. But in terms of how much you want to set aside, if you recall, there was a table that I shared earlier that if you choose to withdraw everything at ERS and then subsequently decide that, okay, I suddenly want ERS at 65, the amount that you need to top up is a lot more because you need to make up for the difference in interest your RA monies would have earned if you had just left it in the accounts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah.
Hey, related question from Ms. Ng here. CPF Life allows cancellation and withdrawal of CPF funds in the event of reduced life expectancy after joining. So which CPF Life plan has the most amount of funds for withdrawal in the event of this unfortunate event?
Okay, so this one is with regards to withdrawal in the event of a reduced life expectancy. So what happens is that if based on like a doctor's prescription and diagnosis, they know that you're going to have reduced lifespan, you can submit that to CPF board and they will do a case-by-case review to see if you're qualified. In which case, if you do qualify, you just need to set aside a reduced retirement sum, and then you can withdraw the rest to help you, enjoy the last moments of the last few years of your life. And then monies that will remain in your retirement account will be paid out to you through CPF Life, in which case you can also choose which plan. And I think there were also questions on so which plan is more suitable in this kind of situation. I would suppose if you're very concerned about wanting to leave a lot more behind for your loved ones, in view that it's already a reduced life expectancy and you don't want to and that you don't want to leave so much so-called interest leaving behind for the put interest, right? Knowing since you already have you already have kind of like an inkling that you probably won't tap on it, then you may want to consider using the basic plan. In the event that in this situation, if you already have started your payouts, you can have two choices also. So one is that you can continue receiving your payouts, or you can also choose to stop your CPF Life plans, and in which case, any unused annuity premium will be paid out to you, depending on which plan you choose.
Okay, so I guess relating to this question is one that we commonly see, which is around the break-even age for the standard and basic plans. So how do we think about break-even age in deciding between these plans, and how do we think about then deciding between these different plans?
Wow, everything I say just now, nobody listen. I still want to go for the math. Okay, if you recall the table that I shared earlier, if you really want to make it into a mathematical exercise, then definitely the break-even point between a standard and basic plan will work out to be somewhere around 90 to 95 years old. And for most very skeptical Singaporeans here, they won't believe that they will live beyond 95 years old. And so they will say basic plan is better from that perspective. But like I mentioned also, at the end of the day, we don't have a contract with God. We don't know when we are going to live, how much longer. And we're having an increasing pool of people who are living beyond 100 years old as well. In which case, then if you had bet against your life expectancy and decide to choose the basic plan, then in that case, you will have lugi lah, because standard plan would have given you some total of higher payouts. So I think at the end of the day, don't do this kind of math lah. Just decide which level of payouts is most suitable for you, whether the $100 more is really that important, and then just plan based on that.
Okay, so then this question from Karensa. Assuming that we choose the standard plan at 65, can this be changed subsequently to, say, escalating?
I think it's the same as the previous question, right? So at the end of the day, you can only change plans. There's a 30 days free look period. So essentially, you can only switch plans after you started your payouts within the 30 days of having started your payouts. Yeah.
Okay, I think we have shared a bit about the theoretical aspects of CPF Life. I guess the next question would be more relating to how we should then consider between the different options. So there's this question around, does it make financial sense to defer CPF Life payout from 65 to 75, to 70?
Okay, I think, all right.
Yeah, I mean, I can take it as well. Maybe I give it a start so that Lina, you go and take a break.
Okay.
I think the interest that you're earning from CPF, you would be earning interest from CPF when you are differing between 65 to 70 years old, right? So I think a lot of it is really a lifestyle decision rather than an investment decision. If you are making an income between 65 to 70, you don't feel the need to get retirement income from the government, and you might be frustrated to go and have an additional monthly income, right? Then I think it's better for you to go and just defer your payouts to a later date and let your retirement account pool compound, and then later on enjoy a larger payout, right? So it's really as with many of the different choices and options made available by CPF Life, it's a lifestyle decision, not so much a mathematical decision or like an investment decision where you are trying to optimize for better returns. So I would say that prioritize looking at it from a lifestyle decision standpoint.
Lina, anything to add?
I totally agree with you, Xingxi, that at the end of the day, it's all about understanding what your needs and your lifestyle preferences are, or your life goals are, and not really thinking about whether you get 6% or 7% more and stuff like that. I think to add on to your answer is basically do your own planning. And if you realize that actually you don't need the returns anymore, then why not just enjoy your I would suggest that maybe why not just enjoy life and start your payouts already and enjoy your golden years while you are still healthy and mobile. Because sometimes we really don't understand that we think 65 is also very healthy, but maybe in the next few years something happens and you realize that you are no longer as mobile and as active, and then you're not able to go and travel around the world as much as you like. So if you can, and if you've already done your planning and you don't actually need the extra returns, then just go and start your drawdown and enjoy your life.
Okay, earlier we did the poll around the different age groups of our participants tonight. This question relates to those who have exceeded 65 years of age. The question is, how do we think about staying in the old retirement scheme versus joining CPF Life?
Okay, all right. That's interesting. I don't think I've heard this question in a long time. Okay, so just to give some background, the retirement sum scheme was the original, the OG retirement scheme on CPF, and this is the one that you set aside monies in your retirement account, and you will get all your payouts through your retirement account for about 20 or 25 years, depending on how much you have in your RA. So the concern here is that after you have then exhausted all your monies, if you're still around, then you have no more monies. So the government is very concerned about that, which is why they introduced CPF Life to address that point. that no matter how long members live up to, they will still be able to receive a monthly payouts. So if you have an option to choose between the RSS or and the CPF Life, then which one you should go for. From a mathematical point of view, again, the RSS provides you roughly about 10% more payouts than CPF Life, and it pays you up to about 90 years old if you have a sizable amount of RA monies. So the one way I'll look at this is that if you're already in your 70s and you know your health not very good or whatever, right, then I would suggest that you just remain on retirement sum scheme and enjoy the higher level of payouts rather than joining CPF Life. That would be my personal advice. But at the end of the day, maybe go with the plan that gives you a peace of mind. Because if you are really very concerned, like, I don't know, after 90 years old, if I'm still alive, then how? Then maybe choose CPF Life. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. The next few questions relate to those thinking about using BRS. Okay, this question from Mr. Chua. To withdraw lump sum cash down to BRS, one needs to pledge his property. Is this correct?
Yes.
You're nodding your head. Do you want to
Yes.
answer this question?
Yeah, so assuming that individual has more than the full basic retirement sum, right? For them to be able to withdraw, right, more than withdraw to a level withdraw more than how should I put it? So they would only be have only the basic retirement sum capped for CPF Life if they were to pledge the property, right? But I have to also clarify that regardless of how much monies that you have within CPF, right, you would be able to withdraw up to $5,000 without any conditions at all. Yeah. So for those individuals with a much lower CPF balance, you'll be able to withdraw up to $5,000. But above and beyond that, right, you will need to go and pledge your property, right, so that you'll be able to withdraw more.
Okay, so maybe I'll just add on to Shing Shi's answer. I know this one is a bit more technical, and it may not be very apparent to most people. Actually, from the moment you decide to use your CPF ordinary account monies, right, to buy a property, CPF board has already created a charge on your property based on the amount that you have used plus any accrued interest you would have earned if you have left it in your OA. So if you choose to decide to use your property in lieu of the full retirement sum, you actually don't need to so-called pledge your property in the technical sense of the word, because as long as your charge, which the board already has on you, is sufficient to cover the basic retirement sum, that component, then you don't have to do additional pledge. So the pledge applies in a situation if like you never used any CPF OA monies before to buy your property. So the board doesn't have any charge on your monies should you sell your property. So in which case then a pledge needs to be done. And a pledge is a legal / technical document, some fees involved and stuff like that. So that's why there is some technical differences between property charge and property pledge. Yeah, but
Okay.
it works the same.
Lina, can I maybe just rephrase what you say? So effectively, the accrued interest is a form of a pledge, right? That's what you're saying.
Yeah, in a way, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so thanks for the clarification. To put this question also in another way, and to make it a bit more complex, can I leave only basic retirement sum in the retirement account, use my home to make up to FRS, and move all the cash to the ordinary account so that I can withdraw and invest myself?
Okay, the answer is no. Yeah. So when you tell CPF board that I want to pledge my I want to use my property in lieu of my full retirement sum, you're essentially telling the board that I don't want to put my money in CPF at all. I want to take care of it myself. So any withdrawal that you make will be withdrawn entirely in cash. You cannot so-called kind of like loophole, right? Circumvent and say I put in my OA and still earn the 2.5%. Essentially, you will be required to withdraw everything in cash.
Okay, I'll jump to a few of the live questions. I see more questions coming in. So if you have got any questions, do put in this questions into the Q&A box. The question is from Mr. Chow. If I defer to 66, then upon 66, can I again defer to 67 and so on?
Yes, you can. So as I mentioned, it's like a standing instruction, right? The board will send you at 65, hello, you're invited to start your CPF life payouts. If you choose to ignore my letter, you can ignore every single year until you want to start your payouts. But by the time you turn 70 years old, that's your last warning. So by the time you turn 70 years old, if you still ignore my letter, I'll just start your payouts, never mind, automatically. Yeah. So the latest you can defer to is 70.
Okay, and this question directed to Lena, I think this relates to something that you shared earlier. In the calculation of the interest earned for the ERS, where the annual interest is quite significant, then this is something that can deter CPF board members from CPF Life scheme. How do we think about this interest earned from the ERS, and whether then that might be something that we should think about in deciding whether or not to go with CPF Life?
I'm not very sure what which slide they were referring to. Is it with regards to the bequest amount?
Okay, maybe Mr. Ong, if you'd like to clarify which point are you referring to when you mentioned that the interest earned for those with ERS was not actually considered. Is it specific to the slide on bequest? Okay, then we'll answer this question later. Okay, the next few questions relate to investment decisions, and we have got questions from people from different age groups. Okay, so maybe I'll start with one that might be applicable to more of the members who are here. In that for someone who is above 70, runway is getting shorter. What is the best option for this group of retirees who then need passive income?
Yeah, maybe I can take that. It's quite a difficult question to answer without understanding your entire, financial circumstances, right? So CPF very often is just a part of our wealth pool, right? Depending on how much we have in cash, how much we have in CPF balances, then the kind of recommendation that, or even the kind of options that we consider will be very, very different, right? So the way to think about it is, you have to take a look at your overall, investment portfolio, the size of it, how much do you have in CPF, how much of it you have in cash, maybe some of it you also have in SRS as well, right? And how do you think about, looking at your more immediate financial goals and needs, and the income that you would need from there, right? So that is something that you probably want to go and speak to a financial advisor on to get a more meaningful answer, right, that you can use to think about to take action on.
Okay, next we'll move to a slightly younger age group. For those people who are aged between 60 to 64, how can we try to improve the payout when we reach 65?
60 to 64, how do you get? Yeah, so that there's a few ways that I think we have suggested just now, right? Depending on where you are with your CPF balances, right? You can consider, if you have a very low balance, right? Obviously, you can try to get into the match retirement savings scheme, right? Top up some money yourself. The government will do a matching top up, and you will get more balance within your CPF. And if you are already just below the full retirement sum, do consider topping up cash into your CPF balances, retirement account, right? So that you will be able to get some tax relief and also earn higher interest from it, right? And for those of you who are at the full retirement sum, right, consider, topping up cash and or even transferring your ordinary account monies to your retirement account, right? So that you're able to earn a more attractive 4% interest return from CPF RA. Yeah. So those are the sort of like the kind of options that are made available for you, or from within the CPF scheme, and getting some goodies from the government, right? Beyond that, you would have to consider things like investing your CPF. And I think this is something that for older CPF members, you have to be very, very cautious about, right? Because your investment even though people are living longer, right, your investment horizon is going to be shorter than most people, right? And of course, you are also not going to be able to make an income. Uh, uh, you're not going to carry on making income like what you're able to do in your 40s or even in your 50s, right? So when you consider investing your CPF, do take into consideration that your risk profile is going to be a bit lower, and your ability to go and generate income on your own while not relying on your drawing down on your retirement assets is going to be lower as well, right? So that would probably mean that your investment options are going to be a lot more conservative, and you may also want to set aside a smaller amount of money for investment in risky assets.
Lina, anything else to add for how we should consider our investments at different age groups?
I think to add on to Sheng Shi's point, yes, definitely consider your risk appetite, your ability and willingness to invest at that point of time in life. And I think one of the other things that retirees don't think about when it comes to investing is that investing is just putting money in and letting it grow. But when you are going to spend down on it, how do you decide when to sell off? Or how do you decide when to draw down? So that's the part that it becomes very tricky, because depending on whether markets are good or bad, you don't know how much to withdraw. So that's one of the other complications that you need to think about. So sometimes people don't want to stress over these things, and they just decide to just put it in some plan that will just pay me a monthly payout, whether it's a dividend scheme or a coupon or whatever, so that I don't have to sweat over how much I should withdraw every single year. Yeah.
Okay,
So
thanks, Lina.
anyway,
Going
I
back
think
to the previous
yeah.
question by Mr. Ong, I
Mm,
think he was referring to your point around how we should consider between CPF Life and the old minimum retirement sum scheme.
yeah,
And I think you shared earlier that you get a higher payout in the previous scheme.
yeah.
So his question is whether that also considers the interest that is being paid.
Yes, correct. So the under the RSS, the amount of payouts that you get is inclusive of all the interest that is earned in your retirement account lah. So if you choose to have, or maybe if in the case of a member who is much older, they are on the retirement sum scheme and they have chosen to top up to the ERS, then your CPF Life, your retirement sum payout scheme payouts will actually be inclusive of the interest as well. So that will also then actually cause the increase or the differential between your RSS payouts and your CPF Life probably to be even wider. Which is why if you are in that kind of scenario, you may probably decide to just stay on RSS lah. And whether I think you asked the question of whether it would dissuade people to be on CPF Life. If you happen to be in this very fortunate group of people, then it's your bonus lah that you have this lucky choice. For most of us who will now be on CPF Life, we don't really need to think about that lah. You just have automatic lifelong payouts.
Okay, then next we move to the even younger group of investors who have joined us today. A question from Andrew. For those who are looking to invest in S&P 500 using ETF, what are the available options that are there using CPF IS?
Yeah, so maybe I can take that. There isn't any CPF board approved S&P 500 ETFs that are available, right? So the only way that you can get a global market exposure, not even just the S&P 500, but a global market exposure through CPF investment scheme, is to buy it through unit trust, right? And for unit trust specifically, there are funds that has strategies that are trying to mirror the S&P 500 index, and there are also funds that are largely similar to the S&P 500 index and are very low cost, right? So these are some of the options that are available across different fund platforms. I understand that Provident has some, Endowus has some as well. So you can read up more about those options online.
Would you like to give us a short comparison about the different S&P 500 exposure?
Yeah, so there, I mean, if you look at strictly a S&P 500 fund, there's only one fund strategy that's managed by Lion Global, right? The Infinity US 500 series that does it. So it's a great fund, but the cost of the the fund is actually fairly significant relative to some of the lower cost index funds that are available now on CPFIS, right? So generally, when it comes to buying index funds, you would be focused on looking at lower tracking error as well as lower total expense ratio of the fund, right? So the priority is to really look at lowering fund fees, because the fund managers is as much as possible is trying to give you benchmark returns, right? And the main difference between the benchmark returns as well as the fund actual returns is the fund fees, right? So you will be focusing on looking at funds that are cheaper for the same exact strategy, and therefore you would be looking beyond the Infinity 500 and probably be looking at something like the Amundi Prime USA. Yeah.
Okay, next we move to bond-related investments. This is a question from Arena. I think we have seen the T-bill yields coming down, but what she might be interested in is still be able to earn a yield above the CPF OA interest rate. So in this case, what are some potential short duration bond funds that can be considered?
Yeah, so I can take that. Maybe let me not answer the question first. I think, Arena, if you are looking at really risk-free assets, then short duration bond funds might not be something that you should be focused on, right? Because when you are investing in risk-free assets, you're effectively almost like a price taker when it comes to getting the returns, right? Whatever the markets are able to offer you in terms of risk-free returns, you are pretty much forced to take it, right? Any other additional interest that you are going to be able to achieve, be it through a bond fund, or maybe even a certain direct bond investment itself, you would have to take on additional risk for it, right? So there's no free lunch when it comes to risk-free return, right? You're effectively a price taker when it comes to interest, right? So don't, if you really don't want to take on risk, then you should not be deterred by the lower T-bills rates. If anything, you should just leave your CPF OA monies within CPF and earn that risk-free 2.5% interest, right? But of course, if you are okay with taking some risk, there's some short duration bond funds that are available on, the CPFIS system. It's available across many different platforms. So what you should be looking out for are strategies that are shorter in bond in duration, right? It could be around a year to 2 years, right? So do check out the platforms, do use these filters. I would prefer not to name names of these bond funds, right? But if you were to, be able to go and navigate around these platforms, there's, 2 or 3 funds that have a pretty short duration that might be appropriate for you. But again, those bond funds can also experience, I think even up to 5 to 10% losses when there's a period of volatility in interest rates, right? So we do see some of these bond funds dropping anywhere between 5 to 10% in 2022 when interest rates suddenly spiked. So be very careful when you consider this option. And if you are not confident with it, please just leave it in CPF. The 2.5% interest is actually what you should be looking out for. Yeah.
Okay, we are now 5 minutes to 9 p.m., but I still see 10 unanswered questions that have been asked. So I'll just quickly go through them to make sure that we answer the questions from our participants tonight. Okay, so quickly on the slide about what you put in retirement sum, does it mean that the CPF board member cannot start receiving payouts at the age of 55? Anyone, Xingxi, you're shaking your head?
No, yeah, you cannot start receive. The earliest you can receive payout from CPF Life is 65 lah. Yeah.
Correct. Okay.
The only exception is if you are in certain schemes from uniform groups. That's the only exception I know of. They may be able to get earlier payout, but I think if you are those group of privileged individuals, then you would know of it anyway. Yeah.
Correct. So the CPF Life payouts will only be applicable from 65 years old onwards. But actually, after 55 years old, you have some, if you do still have some sum of money that is actually left behind in the OA and it's just earning 2.5%, you can also think about whether you want to use these monies to also kickstart your retirement plan. So, I mean, there are different ways you can use the excess money in OAs for. One, you can use it as emergency funds. You can choose to invest it if you have a much longer time horizon to build out your capital. Or if you are already in retirement mode because you're somebody who wants to retire yesterday, right? So in which case, then you can even consider drawing down from your OA monies to help you build a retirement income stream already based on the 2.5% risk-free returns.
Okay, next question from Mr. Lee, who is now 73 years. He's still contributing to his CPF account with contributions from employer, but he's not sure where the commitments and benefits are with regards to his CPF account. Where can he find more information to be able to understand what are some of the benefits or things that come along with his CPF money?
If this talk hasn't addressed all your questions, then I would suggest you take a trip down to CPF board and make an appointment, go down to CPF board, especially the one in Maxwell. They have a special CPF retirement planning service that is for members who are 55 years old and above. And then you'll be able to have all your questions answered and you'll be able to understand all your benefits, etc., that's applicable for you.
Okay, so top tip for everyone today, if you haven't had all your questions answered, you want to pull your friends along, Lina just shared with us, bring them down to the CPF office at Maxwell, okay? Next question, can MA be topped up with some from OA?
Yeah, the answer is no. Not directly anyway. Yeah. So you unlike special account top-ups, you can do it through ordinary account. You will not be able to do it do a OA to MA transfer.
Okay, thank you. Next question.
Sorry. Let me jump in that. So actually, I just did a quick Google when I saw that question. A long time ago, it was not possible, but I think the CPF board has reviewed its policies and it's now possible to do that. Yeah, because it doesn't make sense, right? I go and draw out my money in OA in cash, then I go and top it out in MA when it's all within the same system. So yeah, so now actually you can do that. You can just do a OA to MA transfer. It's all within the same OA to SA/MA transfer scheme.
Okay, then I stand corrected.
Okay.
Yeah,
that
don't
must
worry.
be quite recent.
Yeah, it's right recent. I just Googled it only, so that's why.
So key thing is because these policies constantly change, we also see changes to the ERS on a year-on-year basis. So I think we need to keep ourselves constantly updated about some of these changes. If unclear, once again, do check with the CPF board on the latest policies. Okay. Next question. Not PR, not eligible. Is that correct?
I don't know. Okay, so I think this might have come up during part of my presentation around the match retirement savings scheme. So if you are talking about that portion, yes, PRs are not eligible for it. It's for Singapore citizens. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next one. If we have fulfilled ERS at 55, but this ceiling subsequently increased, can we still contribute to meet the new ceiling? I think this was something that's been mentioned before. Can we just give a clarification?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
So we got confirmation that you can continue to contribute to meet the new ceiling. Okay. Okay. This question from Mr. Lee: what percentage of my CPF money will go to my spouse if I die before the age of 55?
Okay, this question is about nomination. So actually, there are two ways, as I mentioned earlier, in which your CPF savings can be distributed. One is through a valid CPF nomination, which you have to go to CPF board and get it done. And the other way is through the intestacy laws in Singapore. So if you choose to go via the CPF nomination, which you can now do online, you can actually specify exactly how many percent that you want to give to your spouse, your loved ones, or anybody even outside your extended family, or whoever you want to give, you can give. You want to give charity also can. You want to give me also can. All right. So if let's say you don't want to go through the CPF nomination scheme, then under the intestacy laws, what happens is that you will follow a certain table of percentages. If you are married and you have children, then upon member passing away, 50% will go to your spouse and 50% will go to your children. If you have spouse and parents, no children, then 50% to spouse, 50% to parents, and so on and so forth. So in order to get a better understanding of which category you fall into, it's better to just go and do a Google and search Singapore intestacy laws.
Hey, next question. For those who live till 84 years and then at that point in time decide to give up his citizenship or PR status, does this mean there's no money left in the RA account or CPF Life for the rest of his life?
Yes. Yeah, because if let's say you chose the standard plan and the escalating plan, then you will see that based on the table, there is actually no more so-called bequests, right, left behind because all the monies have already been paid out to you. If you choose to give up your citizenship then and all your accounts are closed and assuming you have no more balances in all the other accounts, then yes, there is nothing left for you. So that's why if you happen to be in that situation, don't give up your citizenship, stay in Singapore and just you can live elsewhere, but you can continue to keep your citizenship and enjoy the monthly payouts from your CPF Life for as long as you live. So even if you move to Japan or wherever, you can still get the payouts. Yeah.
Okay, very useful tip. Next question from Agnes. Does it mean you can withdraw 20% of retirement sum at age 65, even if you plan to start CPF Life at 68?
Yes, you can. So from 65 years old onwards, that option is available to you. So you can choose to withdraw that 20% at 65, 66, 67, whenever, even 75 years old, if assuming you haven't withdrawn and the money, you can actually also do that 20% withdrawal. Yeah.
Okay,
Maybe just to add
related
on,
question.
your payout, your corresponding payout will decrease as well.
Yes, definitely. If you do the withdrawal, then your CPF Life payouts will be adjusted accordingly.
Related question on the 20% withdrawal at age 65. Does it mean that the top up from FRS to ERS is then excluded?
This one, I think I have to look at the exact wording, the exact fine print from CPF. It's a bit tricky. But I think the basis on this exclusion is around things like government grants and even top-ups like RSTU, not so much on transfer between accounts. But I think this one I'm actually not too confident on answering this. Lina, you have a better idea. Yeah. Or maybe we can refer them to see the Maxwell branch again.
Yeah, actually, I'm also not too confident on this question. But if I try to understand how government thinks, right? So I think top-up monies doesn't form your 20%, but interest earned on your top-up monies actually form that 20%. Can be used to calculate that 20%. So that's why it's a bit of like the fine prints that we need to go back and look at. So yeah, maybe we can come back to you if there is a way for us to provide answers for that after we clarify and check on our ends.
Okay, two final questions. If I've nominated my wife, my CPF, can I renominate after divorce?
Yes, you can, and you probably should, I guess, because the thing with CPF nomination is that it is revoked upon remarriage or marriage, but it does not get revoked upon divorce. So if you have already changed your mind in terms of how you want to distribute your savings upon a divorce, then you will need to do a new nomination.
Okay, and on passing, can someone transfer CPF to his or her grandnephew's MediSave account, given that the nephew is now 9 years old, but not allowing then the nephew to then withdraw the cash from the CPF?
It's so specific, the wishes. Please go down to Maxwell and get it done. But a very general, broad overview is that actually under the nomination scheme, there is this option called the Enhanced Nomination Scheme. So this scheme actually gives members the option to actually nominate your CPF savings to your nominee's CPF accounts. So maybe you don't want to give them cash, you want to, because they cannot manage or whatever, then you want to put it into your CPF accounts instead. This enhanced nomination scheme can allow you to do just that. Yeah, but in terms of whether your grandnephew, how to manage at 9 years old, 21 years old, or what have you, right? I think it's best that you make the nomination at CPF board and then they will be able to explain fully to you what it means.
Okay, so we have answered 31 live questions and many, many more pre-submitted questions. I must say, having moderated a lot of sessions, Lina and Xingxi are the most knowledgeable people that I have actually heard from about the whole CPF system. Okay, so I'd like to really thank them for sharing all their knowledge with us today. I'm sure many of the participants also found today's sharing useful. Lina and Xingxi, do you have any final words for us?
Maybe just a quick note. CPF is something that it's meant to be a bit more actively managed, right? It's a very big part of our wealth, and it can really make a meaningful difference in our retirement lives, right? So I hope this session that Lina and as well as Gerald, have hosted would have given you some ideas on how to more proactively manage your CPF, and use the scheme to your not just your advantage but your family's advantage.
Lina, anything from you?
Okay, so I think maybe I'll just end off by saying that at Provident, we like to tell our clients to basically put your life decisions, life goals before your financial decisions. So before you decide whether I want to pursue higher returns, lower returns, or whatever, or how much to set aside, please think about what your goals are, what your non-negotiable items are, and then plan around them. And don't be led the other way around. Yeah, so I hope this webinar has also given you ideas on how to go about doing that.
Okay, so quite a number of key takeaways for us tonight. Number one, think about your general life goals, and then all the sharing around the CPF life system, all the FAQs about the CPF system. I think all of us found that very informative. And if there are questions that we have not been able to answer tonight, either do drop a email to SIAS or our panelists tonight, or if you need further clarification, do speak directly to CPF, where they'll be happy to answer some of your very specific questions. So with that, I'll end tonight's session. Thanks once again to Lina and Xingxi for sharing all your knowledge with our participants tonight. And for all of you who have joined us tonight, I wish you a very happy retirement, as well as the ability to be able to match your retirement savings with your lifestyle goals. Thank you so much.